US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Israel for meetings with Israeli and Palestinian leaders as violence continues there. He is arriving in Israel. Moments later, he spoke, urging Israelis and Palestinians not to inflame tensions. Let's take a listen.
To the families of the victims, we express our most heartfelt condolences, knowing that we can never know the depth of your loss. May the memory of your loved ones be a blessing. To take an innocent life in an act of terrorism is always a heinous crime. But to target people outside their place of worship is especially shocking. For every faith, the house of worship is hallowed. It's a place of communion, of awe, and, as the motto reminds us, of love. So Friday's attack was more than an attack on individuals. It was also an attack on the universal act of practicing one's faith. We condemn it in the strongest terms. We also condemn the subsequent terrorist attack in Jerusalem on Saturday, in which a father and son were wounded. And we condemn all those who celebrate these and any other acts of terrorism that take innocent lives, no matter who the victim is or what they believe.
Well, earlier I spoke to journalist Mark Weiss from the Israeli Public Broadcasting Corporation, KAN Khan News. He told me more about the plans for the visit.
Yes, it was pre-planned, but as you mentioned, he's coming in a period of extreme tension following two terrorist attacks on Friday and Saturday, which left 7 Israelis dead. And before that, a fatal Israeli raid into the West Bank refugee camp of Jenin, in which 9 Palestinians were killed. 8 of them, according to Israel, were militants. So the first aim of the Secretary of State will be to ensure that neither side takes measures that will inflame tensions.
What kind of leverage does Mr. Blinken have here?
Look, the US has been and continues to be Israel's key strategic ally. The very close ties between the two states. But it must be stated that this is the most right-wing government in Israel's history. The Biden administration is relatively a liberal administration, and they do not see eye to eye on, for instance, on the Palestinian conflict and how to solve it. The US administration strongly believes in a two-state solution. There is no one in the present Israeli government who believes in a two-state solution. So the aim of Antony Blinken in his talks with Israeli leadership will be to ensure that Israel doesn't take measures that in the future will limit or harm efforts to restore the two-state solution. I think the US administration is under no illusion that now is not the right time to talk about a political horizon. Talks to resume a two-state solution are not an option at this moment, but they want to ensure that there is no long-term damage that would prevent that option in the future.
OK, well, how difficult will it be to ensure that there is no long-term damage, given that Mr. Netanyahu has, as you mentioned yourself, far-right elements of his coalition that he will have to appease as well?
Exactly, and that's the problem, that's the dilemma. A number of right-wing ministers are pushing now for increased settlement expansion in the West Bank as one of the responses Israel should take in response to these terrorist attacks. We're particularly talking about an area between Jerusalem and the West Bank settlement of Ma'ale Adumim, called E1, which Israel has been pushing for to expand settlement construction there for many years. And so far, the US administration has successfully blocked that, partly because the Palestinians are very strongly opposed. It will limit Palestinian territorial contiguity in the West Bank. It might be now that with this new right-wing government, Israel will finally grant permission for building there.
So, you know, we're looking at what Israel wants moving forward. What do you think the key elements will be in the relationship between the US and Israel in the coming years, given this difference in their overall outlooks?
Look, the Palestinian issue is only one question. As far as Israel is concerned, the most important thing is Iran and what Israel perceives as Iran's race towards a nuclear bomb. Jerusalem and Washington are more or less on the same page Both have pledged that they will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. This will feature prominently in the talks today and in future contacts between the two nations. Israel would like to ensure that there is what Israel terms a credible military option. If push comes to shove, as a last resort, that is the only way to stop Iran acquiring a nuclear bomb. There was a massive military exercise just last week with US and Israeli forces, and that's part of that plan. Not that Israel wants a military option, it always will remain a last resort, but they want a credible option in place. Other issues will be discussed is Israel's hope to expand the Abraham Accords, under which a number of Arab states in recent years normalized relations with Israel. Israel would very much like that Saudi Arabia join that circle of peace, although the Saudis have linked that to the Palestinian question. And I don't think at the moment that's a realistic prospect even, but Israel is seeking US help towards that goal.